borrowing is handled as if it is a function of a secret society.
Race year 2022, Mudavadi and Wetangula will run, but they will not win.
If you want to acquire a politician cheaply, go to Western. When you overburden your citizens through debt, you cease to be a government that is trying to raise resources through taxation, and you become an extortionist government.
The head of state's address was a dumper that left many of us wondering whether he lives in this country or somewhere else.
And those are just some of the instances in recent times that are somewhat seen as fashioning Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi as the voice of opposition in these interesting times of blurred lines between the government and the opposition. That is after the March 2018 handshake. The Honourable Musalia Mudavadi is our guest tonight. Do you think he fits the bill? Is he the new face of opposition in Kenya? Or can he lead Kenya's opposition? Tell us what you think. Keep texting us, 22422 is our SMS number. On Twitter, use the hashtag Newsnight. And we thank you so much,
Honourable
Mudavadi,
for
making time for us tonight. First, I mean, let me not just say this for you.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself that? Because people are now talking about you as the de facto opposition leader. Is that what you consider yourself?
Well, I am standing firm and holding fort for the opposition. Because clearly, if we were to take the original format of NASA, the reality at the moment is that NASA is snoozing.
Doesn't exist really.
It is there on paper in terms of a legal entity, but in terms of functioning as NASA, the reality is that we are not functioning as NASA. And that is why I have taken the role of checking the government very seriously as the ANC party leader.
Because you don't think...
And therefore, I believe that I am filling in the gap and making sure that Kenyans have an alternative voice.
Because there's a gap.
There is a gap.
You don't feel your...
Now I feel it.
Now you felt it.
Now I feel it.
Because the last time we spoke, you actually said there's no gap. Actually, you cautioned, you said there could be a gap. Yes. But now you feel it. Meaning your core principles in this NASA that is just on paper are not really in the opposition anymore, are they? Honourable Odinga, let's talk about Odinga.
I think let's just be fair that in terms of speaking to the issues that are dear to the people of Kenya, where we can see gross mismanagement and so forth, I've been the most vocal in raising the concerns about these issues. All is not well in the country, and I have been the most prominent of the politicians who are part of the NASA that is raising these issues on a day-to-day basis.
So you don't think they're doing their role as opposition? Not at all, isn't it?
They could do better.
They could do better, okay. I mean, we've talked about this, let's dispense with it. I mean, the issue about your demeanour and your style. I'll read again another tweet. And of course, there are those who love it. And there are those who say, you show or you represent another style that people should also be ready to accept. But let me talk about George Ngungi Wangari on Twitter, who says, Mudavadi, if you're successful in clinching the opposition presidential ticket and you happen to win the presidency, how will the leadership be different from the current one, considering you've worked with them for long, and what measures will you put in place to tame corruption? That aside. Danson Olen Kuruna, opposition is not led by bishops, like Musalia Mudavadi is calling a bishop, needs people like Raila Odinga, who can swear themselves as presidents without any mandate and make fans happy. Mutua Lloyd Mutua, I respect Honourable Mudavadi. His personality portrays him as one who can't harm anything. The opposition needs someone a bit rough. About presidency, it's tricky considering the breed of leaders in this country. They will throw him out. I don't know if that's what you mean. Again, it's back to the issue of you
you see, one of the things that Kenyans must move away from is this notion that opposition is about being disruptive, that opposition is about picketing. That is what has been drilled into the minds of Kenyans, and I think we need to move away from that. The UK, for instance, you have the Conservatives and you have the Labour. Have you seen Jeremy Corbyn picketing and throwing stones in the streets of London? So let us help people define opposition look at it from a different prism. It's the issues that we raise. We must provide an alternative approach to things. Impunity has taken root in this country. And the message that we are seeing is that if our leaders are going to be breaking the law, are going to do things that are illegal, and then they say that that is the opposition you want to see, then we are not helping Kenyans. I think we need to start restoring sanity and integrity in Kenya's politics, and there's no harm in starting with the opposition so that people can deal with issues. You don't want an opposition that chases away business, that becomes disruptive.
Are you referring to the
economy.
opposition we saw in 2017?
I tell you, if it is going to be an opposition,
because you're part of that opposition.
Yes,
you're part of that opposition.
Yes, but
that did boycotts.
Yes, different measures are called for at different times. But let us face it, right now, the economy and the hardships people are going through is, let us raise the issues so that they can be changed legally.
You were part of the opposition in 2017 that did picketing. And you're part of that. And you led your supporters during these mass demonstrations and more, and boycotts and all that. I mean, now you're saying that was wrong? What you did was wrong?
No. I said everything has a season, all right? And I think we need to look at the opposition afresh in this country. It is time to start reevaluating ourselves. Because frankly speaking, if we are to continue in the same format that we have always believed that that is the correct opposition,
kind of opposition,
then we are wrong.
Because you're the one who's talking about...
So I'm talking about issues. I'm calling for change of policy. I'm calling for different kinds of approaches to things. That is how it should be. We are presenting the alternatives.
And that would work, I presume, in an ideal situation in governance. You are the one who's talking about impunity taking root in leadership.
Correct.
How do you talk to people where, I mean, in any jurisdiction where impunity has taken root in existing governments or regimes, how do you just talk to them and give them alternative policies? Then what?
My friend, we have to work systematically, and we have to work within the framework of the law. I think we should move away from glorifying individuals that are constant breakers of the law. If we do not do that, I was watching the news that you brought up, and here is Sapit. And Sapit saying something about the church. Yes, I do. He's making a point. He's making a point. Because we are seeing a situation where people are thinking that politics is about just breaking the law left, right, and center. Let us change that. Okay.
Finally, I mean, on this issue of your demeanor, I mean, you've seen those who are trying to compare you to Honorable Raila Odinga. What do you make of his style?
Raila has his style.
His style. I mean, that is the style you're saying we need to move away from?
I'm not going to comment about his style.
But it's the kind of style you're saying we need to move away from.
He has fashioned himself in that manner. Now, look at me for what I am. I am Musalia Mudavadi. I am not Raila Odinga.
Okay. Over the last 1 month or so, you've talked about some issues, corruption, you've talked about taxation, you've talked about public debt. These are alternatives, and you've been giving alternatives. Has it yielded anything? Has anybody listened in government? Has anybody responded to you?
I think
publicly we haven't had anything.
I think if you watch carefully, the message is sinking. Okay? It is sinking in the Kenyans, and I think the Kenyans have come to appreciate that the debt burden is heavy. Listening to the governor of Central Bank the other day, when he was talking about his monetary policy position, he did caution that the country has reached its ceiling in borrowing. Now that is the governor of the Central Bank. He is within the system. He's part of the executive, but operating at the Central Bank of Kenya. He is the country's banker, chief banker, and he has cautioned. So clearly the message is beginning to sink. And at the same time, let us face it, not too long ago, an attempt to have further support for the SGR to Kisumu hit a dead end, because even the creditors are beginning to raise concerns that the risk level is high.
And you have actually called, and I'll come to that, you have called for what you said is, what we need is an independent Public Debt Management Authority.
Precisely.
And I'll come to that and why you think that is important. I'll read a text here. This is on 22422. We have somebody here by the name, I think David Ngure. Yes. Sorry, this is actually Martin Dare, Mombasa. He says, hi Hussein, Honorable Musalia can't and will not be a formidable opposition leader. Where was he during the Odinga mock swearing-in ceremony? Opposition requires endurance and self-sacrifices, a matter lacking in Honorable Mudavadi.
Yes.
And as you respond to that, because we want to move this forward. I'm raising this, I'm reading Martin's text because there are some who actually still see you as a system.
But just listen to his text. He says mock swearing in.
Which you believed in.
Look at that. He says mock.
Yeah,
I mean, frankly speaking, if it was mockery, and he himself acknowledges it's mockery, then what would...
Okay.
Why would I be involved in mockery?
Okay, but we talked about this almost a year ago when we had you last here. But and then we established you actually believed in it and you said you'll go, but you didn't go. And that's what they're saying.
That is, I'm very clear that fellow who has talked about it, Mr. Daya, he's acknowledging that was not valid.
Okay, still you promised to go. And still you said, you told Odinga to go and do it. Be that as it may.
I don't think I directed Odinga to go and do it.
You actually did?
No.
And we can look for that in Homa Bay just a few days before you
I said, we have held back the brakes.
For long.
For long.
Wachilia, that's what you said.
But if people do not want to listen, then it's up to them.
Exactly. So, Wachilia, go and get sold.
Yeah, but that is different from saying, do it.
Okay, we can look for that soundbite later, but I mean, you said you'll go, but you didn't go. Be that as it may, my point is, some still see you as a system man, okay, quote in quotes, not really willing to go all the way in as far as the opposition is concerned. This is now in the past, but still it's important because it talks about your personality. Miguna, just recently talking to my colleague Jeff Koinage, said that you told him about this mock swearing in when he asked you, why are you not coming, or are you coming to Uhuru Park? That you told him you are a system person and cannot go for that mock swearing in of the people's president.
I never told
because
Miguna,
you're a system man.
I never told Miguna I'm a system man. Those were his own words. All right?
All right. That's what he says you said. Okay, let's talk about some of the things you've been talking about. First of all, war on corruption. In your statement in April 17th, you said war on corruption is no more than a theater of the absurd. There is no action against our tormentors apart from high-sounding threats. I don't know if you mean from the president. What should be done, Honorable Musalia? One of the things you're saying is that anybody who's being investigated in cabinet should be sacked or step aside. Precisely.
I mean, we need to introduce, where's the chapter, where's the integrity aspect in our proceedings today as a nation? Because if somebody, for instance, is a regular visitor at Kinoti's center,
not charged
at the DCI, not
even charged. The point is,
yes, not even charged, but he's a regular visitor. Kinoti is not brewing coffee for people at the DCI. He's asking very serious questions about the management of public resources in this country, and so is the EACC. So clearly, if you are under that kind of scrutiny, the logical thing is to say, let me exit so that the process can go without me being seen to have interfered with that process. So clearly, when I say some action is needed, the president has got to take some action.
You had them speak, and you actually you did not like what his speech in the State of the Nation. You actually criticized it, the president's speech.
I've said it before, and I'll say it. I'll say it again.
Yes.
I said that the president of this country, President Uhuru Kenyatta, is not just the president, but is also the commander-in-chief of the defense forces. If he has appointed you, and there are doubts, and he calls you,
not proven,
and he calls you and tells you there are issues that are not going well within your docket, and have lost faith in you, what would you do? You would quit. I think the president has got that window. So it could either be a resignation or a sacking.
But as I was saying, he also talked about this. They still have to act within the confines of the law. I mean, those are their words. My point is, how important is evidence?
This is where the issue of integrity in our country. We are lowering the standards of integrity in this country. If you are in public office and there are so many queries around you, the logical thing is to step aside.
Okay. You have been through such things before yourself.
I've gone through a lot of hell. Yes.
And I'm raising this, of course, as a matter of principle. And what you're saying is your principle now. When you were local government minister in the Grand Coalition government, there are those that are called on you to step aside for being linked to the cemetery scandal. You never stepped aside.
Let me tell you.
You never quit office.
I responded.
How is it different?
I responded in Parliament very clearly.
As a minister?
And I was investigated. And they investigated. And my friend Hussein, that matter was dealt with through the High Court.
Fine, but you investigated. You're now saying any minister or government official is investigated to step aside. I
went through hell at that time. And I can tell you for now that that matter is out of the way. It was prosecuted in court.
Yeah.
It was dealt with.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And there are people who are, of course,
so what benefit would it be?
It's not about.
It's not.
It's a matter of principle, because now you're saying now anybody who's being investigated should step aside. You never did it yourself. You went through an investigation. That's what you're saying. Now you're saying Kinoti is not brewing coffee at the DCI. Because you're being investigated, you should step aside. I'm saying you never demonstrated it yourself.
Let me tell you this. It all depends on how long they wanted to do the investigation. All right? So how long is this one of Kinoti going to go on? But the other one, it was done, and the matter went to court. And the investigators realized that I was not part of it. So that matter is over.
So why would you want people who are just being investigated now to step aside?
If you're being investigated at high level, the way some of these things are, if it is not a concussion, then people should step aside.
Okay. I'm still seeing double standards there. Again, you have MPs in Parliament, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. If you really mean this, if you really want to tackle corruption, and just saying your kind of opposition is providing an alternative, not just what we are used to as a country, you want to define it differently. Why haven't we seen any person proposing any laws in Parliament to deal with this from your party? Because you have MPs in Parliament.
I think they have, for instance, even the issue around public debt, as an example. One of our MPs is preparing something on the issue that I've talked about, which relates to the establishment of an independent
public debt
management authority. Yeah. Now, that is one of the laws that can be put forward, and it's being crafted so that it can be moved by a member of the ANC party.
You want it as a law to create a body?
Yes, it is necessary.
We're talking about a country. We're talking about... Okay.
It's otherwise, how do you create institutions that help in fighting?
There's the Mgwen MP who wants a ceiling.
He wants a ceiling.
Okay.
But I'm talking about something else here. I'm talking about an institution that it does not just deal with a ceiling. Debt must be looked at in totality. Are we getting value for money?
Do we respect institutions, Honorable Mudavadi?
That is the impunity we are talking about.
So how will having another institution help?
We have to change things through the legal way. Hussein, as much as you want to make it look like it's a simple thing, it is not. We have to change it through the legal process. So if we are going to have an institution that will be recognized in this country, it has to go through Parliament. With
what powers? That's the question. What can they enforce?
First of all, let us just take the functions, for instance. And this has been done in Ireland. All right? Ireland was steeped in public debt. And they wanted to find a way out of it and how to deal with the issues of borrowing. They created what you would call a treasury management agency, focusing on issues of debt. So it looks at the quality of debt, the quality of borrowing. What other engagements are in that? Does it make sense? What is the risk factor? And all these are done transparently without the head of treasury intimidating that institution. So it has to have some level of independence like the Auditor General's office, so that it can guide the government and parastatals associated with government and even county governments on the risks behind any borrowing. Let's take what is happening in the media today. We are reading about articles of potential contractual obligations that have been made around the SGR. They are trickling in. Now, the function of an institution like this would have been to scrutinize so that anything that is going to have a serious bearing on the financial standing of this country, and by extension, the pressure on the ordinary citizen, must be checked. And this is the institution that we need to have.
Okay, I mean, fair enough. But the question is about, the question I'm asking is what kind of powers will they have? Because we've seen such institutions come up, now, they give recommendations or whatever, but nobody really follows them. And
once you have that and you legislate through Parliament, that institution can stop and say you cannot engage or contract this particular loan.
We have a text here from Pamela in your county, Vihiga, who's talking about MPs' allowances and the uproar about it. I'm assuming you don't support it.
I don't.
Yet none of your MPs has talked about it.
I have talked to them. I don't support it. All right.
They're not listening to you?
There's some measure of self-interest here. But the position that I take is that...
I'm assuming they should listen to the party leader.
They should listen to the party leader, no doubt. But I've made it very clear, and I hope they're listening and watching, that to me, under the current economic circumstances, for Parliament to be seen to be allocating extra packs to themselves, all of them, as parliamentarians, are doing a disservice to the nation. They should be alive to the economic circumstances of the day. The country is deep in debt. The ordinary citizen is feeling the pressure of higher taxation every other minute, because the government is spending almost 60% of its earnings on paying public debt. So they should be alive to this. Okay,
but I'm assuming as the party leader, you should be able to whip them to address this. But of course, they are siding with all the other MPs, and you're not seeing any ANC member of parliament talking. In fact, the only ANC member of parliament, or the drama around the ANC members of parliament, has been a nominated member, Honorable Osotsi. And you've talked recently about how it is important that ANC incorporates everybody, that you want to work with everybody. And we have seen the claims by some MPs who say you are targeting, or your party is targeting MPs, or by MPs I mean also senators, that are seen to be close to rival parties. Not really rival, because you work with them under NASA, that is ODM. Honorable Sotsi, for example, Honorable Malala, for example.
That is absolutely...
That you're not being tolerant.
It's absolutely false. It's a white lie. Let me make it very clear. Honorable Malala is not facing any disciplinary measure. So who is creating one?
You have, for example.
Then we are not creating. The other issue is a question of accountability.
Yes.
And we are making it very clear that parties must also be accountable.
This is about Honorable Osotsi.
Parties are the reservoirs of the people who either move into government or are in parliament. We need to show accountability in our parties.
Okay.
Not about political leanings. I don't care where they lean politically.
It's just a coincidence that both of them are leaning towards ODM.
No. Let me make it very clear. I don't mind what their political persuasion would be on some of these issues. They have a right to have a stand.
Okay.
But members of ANC would like to see accountability.
Okay. Speaking about that accountability, first, what he has been claiming, and for the documents we have seen, it talks about a management letter from the Auditor General. We are seeing...
Are you aware that the matters are in court?
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay.
Of course, you're at liberty to respond or not.
So I think we have said enough about that.
You're at liberty to respond or not. I'll just ask the question still. The Auditor General has written a letter and has disowned that management letter that is said to have come from the Auditor General.
Can you prove that?
Yes, I'll show you the letter.
Can you prove that?
I will show you the letter. Yes, I can.
Hussein, let me help you. Don't propagate a falsehood.
I can show you the letter that
on this one, you're propagating a falsehood.
I can show you the letter that is said to be coming from the auditor.
Why don't you wait for the facts?
That's fine. I mean, as I said, you're at liberty to respond to this or not because you see the matters in court. But of course, we'll see how that goes ultimately. But you're saying you're not targeting them for any reason or being seen as...
Targeting who? What has Malala done? What has he done? Tell me.
Why is he being...
who is fighting?
Why is he feeling...
No.
Why is he feeling that he's being fought?
Then you better ask him. You better ask him.
Why is the Sotsi being feeling that he's being fought?
We've talked about accountability, and that matter is in
court. The court. All right, and we'll wait for the findings. We'll see. We'll wait for the findings. I mean, time will tell us. Another person that has... I don't know if you have embraced him. He embraced you, then you embraced him. Is Honorable Ochesa. He never had convoys for him before. I don't know what has changed. He has said, of course, he wants to support you in your ambitions because you've made it clear now you're going for the top seat again.
Ochesa made a public statement and he expressed his opinion. And I said, I have no problem in working with Ochesa. All right? He did not commit any crime. He simply was expressing his wish and his desire to have a united approach as people from Western Kenya. And he was encouraging me to make sure that I am on the front line. And I said, thank you.
And now you're working with him. I want to listen to a soundbite here from one of your staunch supporters. Of course, you're with him in UDF. This is Honorable Khalwale. Of course, this is after you talked about you vying for the presidency. Let's hear what he said.
Race year 2022, Mudavadi and Wetangula will run, but they will not win. We want to work with somebody who is going to win. We cannot remain out of government for 10 years and then another 10 years because ndugu yetu mkubwa amefanya hesabu vibaya.
So, first, how do you respond to that?
I cannot help him. He has found a new calling and he's best left to deal with his new calling.
He doesn't seem to have confidence going by your false starts before in your attempts to be president. From his remarks, he actually talks about you consolidating Western vote first and attracting others. I don't know why that is there, attracting others. Like you can't work alone, you have to work with other people from other regions.
Look, you know, I find people very strange here. And in fact, they look at us or look at me very simplistically. Let's be honest. The Constitution has got very specific provisions on how you can achieve the position of presidency or president in this country. I'm not a child. I've not been born yesterday. Surely, does somebody think that I do not know that I need the support of all Kenyans? So that is a non-starter in terms of an argument. We need to work with other Kenyans. And I will not relent in reaching out to Kenyans from different parts of the country other than the region where I was born. So let us be very clear that those trying to propagate that are being very simplistic and naive. I know very well what it takes to be a president.
Okay, you tried before in 2013.
Yes.
You came a distant third from Jubilee and CORD then. You didn't even command the Western vote as such then. And there's that talk you still do not really command.
So because I contested and I didn't have so many votes, I should not contest again?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't even finish asking my question.
Yeah, but I know where you're going. Let's be very clear on this one. Okay. That was my first attempt. And by the way, even if you look at it in terms of...
your second attempt? Yeah, you didn't finish it. Let me finish your question.
I've not made a second attempt.
In your second attempt, you went and joined with NASA, and of course Raila became the flag bearer, isn't it? Initially, you were going to be the flag bearer. You said you'll be a flag bearer. You're going for the presidency.
I formed the NASA coalition. And the understanding was that we had seen the approach that Jubilee had taken. TNA had merged with URP and a host of other parties. So from that perspective, we just had to be realistic. And I had to be realistic here. So I said, in order to create a formidable vehicle to challenge the Jubilee, then we need to pull together. And in the process, as core principles, there is a process where there was discussion and all that. And in that discussion, in those negotiations, we settled for Raila as the NASA presidential candidate.
Fair enough.
So,
based on that,
so based on that, there's nothing absolutely wrong.
For those who think, based on that, that you're doing this just to be on the negotiating table.
Oh my God! Then they're completely wrong. All right.
Okay.
They must remember that being selfless is very different. And I have shown that I can be selfless. During the Moi era, I gave Moi all the support when he was going for his presidential bid, especially after the multi-party. After that, I gave Uhuru support. I also gave Raila support in 2007, 2008, and in 2017. That is being selfless. All right?
It's not about being opportunistic.
It's not about being opportunistic.
Okay. Francis in Nairobi, this text, he says, there is talk that Musalia Mudavadi is the compromise candidate for 2022 and is now being fronted by the so-called dynasties. How do you respond to that?
That's absolute madness. And I think people are misusing the whole aspect about dynasties and all this. There are no dynasties here in Kenya. We should forget about that. It's a terminology, it's a narrative that is being put forward to try and divide the nation. Let us not fall for that trap. If one was to go to background, my grandfather died in a gold mine. He was a simple miner, Karaya mine. You know, these guys open pan mining, and they crashed in a gold mine. And when he died, my father was 9 years old. My father struggled at the age of 9 to take care of his younger siblings in a poverty-stricken environment. So he went through that process. But surely, if I am his son, would it be that because he became a public figure,
you should
that I should be subjected to other things and I should not be a public figure? That is wrong thought. And those people in politics today and those aspiring to go into politics today, some will succeed, some will not succeed. But they will have their families and their children. And don't deny anybody his opportunity and their rights in accordance with the Constitution.
Finally, you're perturbed by the political activities in Western Kenya. Recently you talked about, and I'll quote you, the people who are coming here are coming for cheap political acquisition. Excuse me. Wamegundua kwamba if you want to acquire a politician cheaply, go to Western. I don't know who you're referring to. Who is this that is acquiring people cheaply? But should that worry you if you know that you have a clout in your own backyard?
I think
should that even worry you?
I think what I was trying to tell the people of that region is that where is your conscience? Where is your dignity? All right? We have heard sad stories. Many years ago, a politician in this country, some of them are long gone, but one said Western Province is nothing but a factory of cooks and watchmen.
It's an unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Another one said, Western Kenya is like a pot of busa. All you have to do is put your long straw in there and draw as much as you can. Again, not very positive to the people. But behind all this, the insinuation is that...
You can't unite.
No, the insinuation is that the community goes for small little things.
Which is not the case.
Which is not the case. And it should not be the case for any Kenyan anywhere. At all. We should cultivate a society and a political regime, a democratic regime that is pegged on principle.
We all hope for that, isn't it?
And not this issue of monetary. And that's why I said, when you come to think of it very easily, you see people there saying, oh, ameleta nini.
We all hope for that, isn't it?
And then it's all, the small phrase I said, you know, people have been taught that mwanaume, sio effort, mwanaume ni wallet. So we need to get this mentality out of our young people. Basically, people must work hard.
We all hope for that as a country, of course, where people will vote based on their conscience and principles and all that. So why do you think it's been different in Western? I mean, there's always this notion that politics begins locally and at home.
The flip side.
Is there a reason why you think, for example, you did not manage to consolidate the Western?
No, the flip side of Western is this. And this is the side that also we need to show. That the people of Western Kenya have also been at the forefront on showing Kenyans that democracy does not always mean voting for your own. Please, let us respect them for that. These guys have voted for Moi. These guys have voted for Raila. These guys have voted for Kibaki. These guys have voted for Uhuru. Now, you tell me, what is the voting pattern in some of the other areas? They have never seen the need to vote beyond their region. Now, that is something that we need to cultivate. So even when I talk about the need to work together and encourage the people of Western Kenya, I want them to be firm, so that whatever decision they make, whether they are voting for Musalia or voting for somebody else, let it be based on principle and be informed by principle.
One of the few people that has already announced they'll be vying for the top seat is Deputy President William Ruto. I'll read a text here, a tweet. This is Green Shop EA1. They have their right to ask questions, of course. You're at liberty to respond or not. He says, could Mudavadi vie as deputy to William Ruto?
No.
Okay, that's a firm no.
A firm no.
You, for example, in 2017 to 2016, in the run-up to 2017 election, was going to vie for the presidency. You said you were selfless, and you've explained and how it was important for the sake of winning against Jubilee to come together with NASA, with Raila Odinga, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and Honorable Raila Odinga, Honorable Musyoka, and Honorable Wetangula, to win that election. You don't see such a thing happening? Do you know? I mean, you never know. What if you're to work with Deputy President William Ruto? That can occur.
How will it occur?
You don't know. You never knew. If you're working with NASA, would occur. NASA principles.
It will not occur.
Why not? You can never work with him.
He's a competitor. He's going for it.
So was Raila Odinga.
The constitution is very clear that he cannot be somebody else's running mate. Ruto cannot be anybody's running mate.
And that is the only reason why
it is a closed chapter there. All right? So we have to move forward. And moving forward is consolidating ANC. And that is what I'm doing.
So you can never work with him?
How would I work with him?
What do you think of him?
Would I work with him for the presidency or for something else?
Politically.
I mean,
you remember last time there's a day he was in this and he said, let's
be very clear on the issue of the presidency. That is a pipe dream.
What is a pipe dream? Presidency, his case?
He is contesting and I'm contesting. So let's close that chapter.
You still believe this handshake is good for the country? Has it worked? Initially, you were lukewarm about it. You said you'll give it a chance.
I still have my reservations, and I've made it very clear that when you look at the issue of the handshake, it may have, and indeed it has, brought some semblance of tranquility in the political arena. You know, the whole hype and antagonism has dissipated, or at least it has been suppressed for the time being through the handshake. But I'm also very clear that the handshake should not be seen as the exclusive domain of two individuals. By extension, when you say you are creating the BBI and what have you, let other Kenyans participate in this process. That is very, very, very crucial.
But as opposition leader, you're more or less opposing it now, isn't it?
I want to make it very clear that the handshake should not be used to camouflage the ills that are in the country at the moment.
Is that what you think is happening?
In certain instances, yes.
For example?
I think we should not gloss over the war against corruption. Let it be fought.
Okay. I'll read a few more SMSs and tweets here. One, this is from Emmanuel Talam, who works at the Deputy President's office. Mudavadi creates a convenient narrative for himself, believes in it, lives in it, and thinks others believe in it. He says it's a tragedy, but he says, but he's a nice guy. Okay, there's I don't know if you want to respond.
No. I know Talam, and I know he was from the media, so I'll leave it at that.
You don't want to respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay, and of course there are more SMSs and tweets. I'll look at more right now before I give you the final word and what you want to tell Kenyans. Ask Mudavadi, please, Paul Otieno on Yango on Twitter. If elections were held tomorrow, whom would he choose as his running mate and why?
I don't think I would answer that now, because we have 3 years to go to an election, and the whole idea of identifying your running mate is not something that you second guess.
Okay.
You have to take some time on it.
Okay, and of course we have more and more SMSs and tweets, and we'll be looking at them at the end of this show. But of course there are those who still like what you do. Homari Jr. says, Musalia Mudavadi is very articulate in his words. I view him as a man of utmost principles and integrity. He's a slave of his own conscience. He deserves an endorsement from both political divides and the Kenyan hoi polloi. Okay, there are those who still give you a thumbs up and still think your demeanor is actually what we need in this country. Your final words to Kenyans.
Well, I think,
and especially in this new role that you want to take as opposition leader.
I think the most important thing is that people should listen to what I'm saying, because I'm communicating very important issues. I mean well for this country. I like Kenya. I want all of us to be patriotic, and I want us to bring integrity into the arena of politics. In the last few days, last few weeks, what we have seen around politics is a glorification of impunity, whether it is in the realms of misuse of public resources or even the conduct of public officials. We need to rid this of the system.
Okay. Very briefly on the referendum, I have to ask you that before I go. Of course, there are those who are calling for an expanded executive. What are your views? What should we have? What should happen?
I think the issue of the referendum should be handled very carefully. If a referendum is going to be seen as nothing else but an expansion of the executive, then we have lost the Kenyans. Kenyans want to see, over and above some of those suggestions, they want to see a referendum that will entrench and enhance accountability and good use of public resources. These are the issues. And I can tell you, from the BBI as an example, because some of the people there are friends, they have actually indicated that out in the field, when they go out, most of the presentations have been on issues around accountability, the high cost of living, the need to deal with better governance in the country. And very few of the ordinary citizens have been talking about what you'd call expanding the executive.
Okay. Right, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has been our guest on Newsnight. I was supposed to read one tweet here, I still can't find it, but somebody was actually saying, do not force, and Mudavadi should not be forced to be what he is not. We actually need his brand and kind of politics, and they'll support you for 2022.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. Of course, you'll be engaging in the next few months or days or weeks as you take on this mantle of opposition leader, and we wish you nothing but the best, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much.